Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. It's Thursday, March 16th, 2017. I'm your host, Owen Schroyer. Here's what's on the news tonight.
Tonight, you're either with John McCain or you're with the Russians. When Rand Paul balked at McCain's demands for stretching U.S. NATO commitments even further, McCain said, the senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin. Today, Rand Paul laughingly pointed out that McCain, quote, makes a really strong case for term limits. He's past his prime and gotten a bit unhinged. Then, a conservative black law professor says the ideological discrimination he faced in universities was worse than racial discrimination. And Ray Kurzweil tells South by Southwest that he's confident man will merge with computer by 2029 and become smarter, funnier, and sexier. In other words, much less like Ray Kurzweil himself. All that and more on tonight's Infowars Nightly News.
In case you haven't heard, Infowars has become the most influential.
America Great Again is not going to be met with obstacles, and the left has said they're never going to stop as long as Donald Trump is president. So even when Donald Trump tries to make a travel ban for America's national security purposes, well, he has to face all sorts of obstacles, even when he amends that. The latest are 2 federal judges have temporarily blocked President Donald Trump's travel ban. Get this. Both citing Trump's statements about Muslims during the presidential campaign as part of their rulings. So there you go. Liberal federal judges admit that they are putting political correctness over national security. That is a serious issue, in my opinion. A ruling by a federal judge in Hawaii Wednesday resulted in a temporary restraining order nationwide hours before it was set to go into effect. But guess what? We took a little closer look at that federal judge in Hawaii, a classmate of Barack Obama's at Harvard Law. That's right. U.S. District Court Judge Derek Watson was a classmate of Barack Obama's. He's the one that halted the travel ban. Is anybody shocked by that news? I didn't think so. Now, this is where Donald Trump has the human touch that the mainstream media is going to ignore. Fiancé of woman killed in crash with undocumented immigrant says President Trump called him. Wow. Rodrigo Macias was the fiancé of a fatal crash victim, Sandra Duran, and he received a personal phone call from Donald Trump. And you know, not just does this show Donald Trump's humility and just empathy towards the average human, it shows you how he really has his finger on the pulse of America. He is really paying attention to this stuff. He knows what he's talking about. And this proves it that he even knew that this happened, but then had enough of a heart in his busy schedule to reach out and give Rodrigo a phone call. I wonder how much that meant to him and how much it means to him that President Trump is going to try to do something about illegal immigrants who are coming here and harming citizens of this country. Now, one of the people, in my opinion, at least sometimes when they print these stories, that's harming the American population is the Washington compost pile, where they just released this story today. If you're a poor person in America, Trump's budget is not for you. So how do you like that? They are inciting hate. They are inciting class warfare here with poor people, and not just Donald Trump, but all of Donald Trump's supporters. Because the average poor person out there, in fact, the average person out there, I cover Trump and I don't even have access to Trump. They don't have access to Donald Trump. They can't get their anger out on Donald Trump. Going on social media or on the keyboard doesn't actually do it. So now what are they going to do? They're going to go out in the streets. They're going to be violent. They're going to riot. They're going to take these protests to the next level. And the ACLU and other groups are fully supporting of this, including George Soros, who's funding it all. But this is the Washington Post trying to start class warfare. Trump has unveiled a budget plan that would slash or abolish programs that have provided low-income Americans with help on virtually all fronts, including affordable housing, banking, weatherizing homes, job training, paying home heating bills, and obtaining legal counsel in civil matters. Well, now you've got private groups funding the legal counsel in civil matters. But yes, Trump said that he was going to cut into welfare, but he made it clear he was going to bring jobs back. So he's followed through on his promise, or he's trying to follow through on his promise to end welfare and bring back jobs. What did he say? Take Americans off welfare, put them back to work. This is part of the process. It's a painful process, and the left just can't have any of it because there's no suffering allowed. This is a budget that pulled the rug out, and this is a quote from their source, Melissa Botich, who, shocking. They get the quote here, and guess who their source is? Melissa Botich, Vice President of the Poverty to Prosperity Program at where? The Center for American Progress, a liberal think tank in Washington. Oh, and who works with the Center for American Progress? The ACLU and George Soros. We covered that yesterday. And of course, that's their source where they pull this quote and then write the story. This is a budget that pulled the rug out from working families and hurts the very people who President Trump promised to stand up for in rural America and in small towns. What a load of bull. But that's their source. And again, doesn't mention the fact that Trump is bringing back jobs. And here's the key to this, folks, and I covered this earlier too. Most of these institutions that are receiving this federal funding that are being cut right now, that Trump is proposing cutting the funding from, don't even rely on federal funds. Most of them, the percentage that they get from their overall funding from federal funds is actually very small. But they're not going to mention that in here because this article from the Washington Compost isn't about bringing you the truth. It's about inciting hate and class warfare. And that's the truth right there. And this is what happens, folks. Pro-Trump radio host Michael Savage claims he was assaulted while having dinner with his toy poodle, Teddy. I'm sure you've heard about this by now. And are we going to blame the Washington Post? Are we going to hold the Washington Compost responsible and accountable? What about Snoop Dogg? What about Anthony Romero? What about Robert Reich? We're looking right at you. And, you know, let's be perfectly honest. With all the attacks we've seen against Donald Trump and now against Michael Savage on the physical front, Donald Trump is obviously very tolerant to have put up with some of the garbage that he's had to put up with. And Michael Savage is very tolerant as well to have this happen to him and his dog. And, folks, if you listen to Savage's radio show, you wouldn't even think it was a big deal. You wouldn't even have known it would happen. Talk about tolerance. Savage, who is 74 years old with his little pet poodle, gets assaulted while trying to have a meal. He's eating dinner in California when hecklers started heckling him and then allegedly knocked him to the ground and punched the man or another diner who tried to intervene. So there you go. That's what happens when people like the Washington Compost and Anthony Romero are inciting violence against Donald Trump and his supporters. They can't reach Trump, so they go to the next closest thing, Trump supporters. Now, Michael Savage, if by some way this message reaches you, please pursue hate crime charges. Because I think that this is a precedent and an example that needs to be set. If we're going to stop this violence against Trump supporters for our free speech, this is the only way it can go. You're going to have to pursue hate speech charges or hate crime charges. And I don't know if Michael Savage has any plans on doing that. Hey, maybe he can work with the ACLU, right? I mean, it's the Civil Liberties Union. Isn't it Michael Savage's liberty to have his free speech without being assaulted? You think the ACLU is going to take up Michael Savage's case? I don't think so. I don't think so. But it goes on. The Hill asks, violent threats against the president are now okay? Yeah, exactly. How is this going on? You've never seen threats on all different levels during speeches, during marches, on signs, in campaigns, on social media, in music videos. So, I mean, you can't, if you're Milo Yiannopoulos, you're not allowed to have free speech. If you're a Trump supporter, you're not allowed to have free speech. And if you're Donald Trump, apparently it's okay for people to have free speech, though, to threaten your life or to threaten to pimp your wife out. So that free speech is okay, but not for Milo or for Trump supporters. And again, it's incredible. And Alex Jones says this all the time. You've never seen more open threats to a president's life. I mean, I never liked Obama. Infowars was never a fan of Obama, but I would be shocked if you could even find one instance in 8 years of Infowars coverage of Obama that we ever suggested any type of violence at all towards Obama. If anything, you could find hundreds of cases of the exact opposite. But that's the tolerant left for you. And then you have the insanity level of an Ashley Judd. This is truly incredible, folks. She's actually completely lost her mind. She's with the Maxine Waters and those of the world. First of all, she goes on Facebook. She's upset that she had a political confrontation at a basketball game, totally triggered her. She starts off a rant on Facebook with hashtag no politics here, and then does a 10-paragraph long political rant. And she said it was uncomfortable and scary for her to have a Trump supporter talk to her at a basketball game. She goes on to say, I firmly believe college basketball is a no politics here space. And then she says it can actually be a bonding and healing space. I agree. So that means, hey, we disagree on politics, but we agree on sports. That doesn't mean shut up, you don't get your right to free speech on your politics. That doesn't mean censor free speech, Ashley Judd. And she talks about how she's talking with this man. He talks about how he's from Stone Gap. And then she gets triggered because he says, hey, people at Stone Gap like Trump. And she says, I could have responded by saying, you voted with the KKK, you're a misogynist. But again, she doesn't understand. All this man was trying to tell her, at least this is my perspective, was that, hey, Ashley, hey, guess what? You're out of touch with reality. All right, hon? All right? People like Trump. Accept it and move on. The more you come out with crazy stuff like this and get triggered just by Trump's existence, the crazier you look. That's how it sounds to me, but she got fully triggered. But this is what's going on. Look at all the madness on the side of the anti-Trumpers. Rand Paul, John McCain is unhinged and past his prime. Salute to you, Rand Paul. That was just beautifully said. Here's the words that Rand Paul actually used. And by the way, this is after McCain said that Rand Paul is working for Vladimir Putin. John McCain said Rand Paul is working for Vladimir Putin. Rand Paul, one of the most strict constitutionalist American politicians that you'll find. And Paul says, I think he makes a really, really strong case for term limits. And you can insert your little rim shot there. I think maybe he's past his prime. I think he's gotten a little bit unhinged. Yes, him, Waters, Pelosi, Schumer, they've become completely unhinged. Be honest, Rand. And then he makes a serious point. Well, first he follows it up with another joke on McCain, but then a serious point. He says, one of my favorite articles of the last couple of years is the one that talks about the angry McCains. If we put the active troops and got involved in combat everywhere McCain wants us to be, they put little angry McCains on the globe and it's virtually everywhere. So his foreign policy is something that greatly endangers the United States and overextends us. So he makes a joke about McCain and how he's basically just a warmonger. But that's a serious issue, and that's something that we need to realize from what we did with the Middle East. All this overextension and oversaturation in these areas just furthers the conflict and really doesn't lead to anything good. However, having said that, we do have more conflict coming out of the Koreans and the South China Sea. Of course, North Korea blasts the U.S. bombing drills in South Korea. Now, these are actually annual drills, so North Korea is freaking out over annual drills. Maybe they're actually freaking out over something else, though, is my thought process. Because like I said, these joint drills happen annually, and now, for some reason, North Korea seems to be extra bothered by this because Kim Jong-un comes out and threatens merciless attack on America in retaliation for South Korea drills. Again, these are the annual joint drills. He said he would attack his Western enemies from ground, air, sea, and underwater in a saber-rattling statement released through state media. Now, there's nothing new here as far as Kim Jong-un making statements like this, but this is the difference. The United States president is no longer a bowl of soft-serve ice cream, Barack Obama. You're now dealing with President Trump, and I don't think he's going to take threats like that lightly, okay, Mr. Kim Jong-un? And even though those drills that freaked you out may have been an annual thing in South Korea, these drills are not so annual. U.S. soldiers trained for jungle warfare in Hawaiian rainforest. Now, the story goes on. The soldiers were going through training at the first jungle school the Army has established in decades. The course is part of a program to train soldiers for exercises and potential combat on terrain that looks more like islands and nations in the Pacific than Afghanistan and the deserts of the Middle East. The Army is currently developing new uniform and boots specifically for the jungle when they realized what they had was out of date. So, what is the connection there? Is there a connection there with everything that's happening in the South China Sea, the battle for land, resources, and nautical land now that China's just making is a serious threat? And you better believe that Rex Tillerson knows exactly what's going on with that resource-rich environment. So tensions heating up in the South China Sea. Now you've got tensions heating up in Korea. And the IB Times comes out with this story. Next World War, China wants to destroy North Korea threat with U.S. and Russia. Now, this headline is a bit misleading in my opinion. We'll get to that in a second. Chinese, Russian, and U.S. officials have all said they would like to minimize the threat of nuclear fallout created by the North Korea regime, though they are greatly divided on how exactly to work together to reach that goal. China has only offered one possible resolution to the Korean conflict: for the U.S. and South Korea to cease all joint military exercises in exchange for a full stop of all North Korean nuclear operations. Now, doesn't that sound exactly like what North Korea would want? That's what it sounds like to me. And again, this is interesting considering everything that's going on in the South China Sea. So does China really want to work with the United States and Russia? Because the only proposal they put on the table is very pro what North Korea would like. So interesting to see what's going on there. But you know what? Guess what? Ray Kurzweil says that by 2029, the singularity is going to be here, and it's going to be superhumans. Superhumans who are sexier, stronger, and smarter will all arrive by 2029. So you know what? I don't know why we're worried about war. I don't know why we're worried about borders. Why are we worried about anything? Ray Kurzweil and Google, they're going to bring us the singularity, folks. That's all we need. All right, folks, we're going to have more with the Infowars Nightly News on the other side of this break.
This is one of the biggest secrets out there. The missing link of why our ancestors, whether you were in Africa or ancient Albion, which is England today, why our ancestors were so much stronger. I mean, there are huge archaeological reports, all sorts of anthropology studies, you can look them up for yourself, that show that humans, just an average farmer of 10,000 years ago in England, was stronger than Olympic athletes today. In the final equation, everyone knows our modern society has lost its vitality. The sperm counts are down like 90%. People are falling apart. They're totally depressed. They're unhappy. What is going on? Every ancient culture was obsessed with what I'm about to reveal to you. Today we call it bone broth, and for thousands of years our ancestors enjoyed its benefits before it became lost to our modern diets of processed junk. That's why I'm so excited to announce the product that is undoubtedly the jewel in the crown of Infowars Life products. Caveman. We lost our vitality because we just ignored the ancient traditions. Everyone knew that you used all the parts of the animal. You used the skin to cover yourself for shelter. You used the meat for sustenance, the fat for cooking, but you used the bones for strength. We are now introducing Caveman by InfoWarsLife.com, the ultimate in true paleo nutrition with bone broth, turmeric root, chaga mushroom, and 7 total primal superfoods in a single great-tasting formula. The bone is so amazing. From the outside structure full of minerals and key cofactors to the marrow that produces the blood for the body. This is the engine of the life essence. I've made a lot of important points here, but this is the one you need to research for yourself because it's so key. High-quality bone broth helps support healthy muscles and connective tissue, while the active compounds in turmeric do battle on the cellular level and help fight free radicals. And collagen is essential to aid healthy tendons, ligaments, and muscle tissue. This is an absolute win-win. You get an amazing product produced right here in America. You support Infowars and all we're doing to promote freedom and the restoration of our republic and promotion of freedom worldwide. The journey towards better health and giving our bodies these amazing compounds that God created starts at InfoWarsLife.com. 3 years in the making, incredible research, and the very best ingredients. I'm Alex Jones, and I may not be a caveman, but compared to these trendies out there in the street, I'm as close as it gets. Join me at InfoWarsLife.com and get your caveman formula today. The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. The key is to be aware of this attack and to fight back against it. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula, sourced from powerful organic herbs harvested around the planet and then concentrated for maximum potency. I've always believed in nutrition and herbs. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by Infowars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality and other powerful products from Infowars Life.
This is Millie Weaver for the Infowars Nightly News. Well, we have a very special guest, Professor Ellis Washington, who is an adjunct law professor who wrote a manifesto detailing his experiences being discriminated based on his political ideology. Let's go ahead and talk to Professor Ellis. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor Ellis Washington. Well, you wrote this amazing and profound manifesto. Can you tell us more about your manifesto? And, you know, it is about ideological racism in the academic world. So can you go into that for us?
I'll be happy to. And Millie, thank you so much for having me on. And let me just say this at the onset, that you are the first media entity to interview me on this rather controversial law review article that I wrote 2 years ago. It really covers most of my professional career. I became a conservative during my senior year at DePaul University in Indiana. In 1982, on Christmas, actually Christmas Day, I became a conservative, and from that point on, my life irrevocably changed. Before that, I was, a music major, played French horn, studying classical music. Everything was going real smooth. Didn't really face any overt discrimination. But once I made it known that I was a conservative, everything just turned upside down. So that started me on the route to write my manifesto. And so when I wrote it in 2015, I wanted to show not only my story, but talk about other scholars that I studied under who were going through similar things. Some of them have even passed away now. It transcends race, it transcends religion, it transcends ideology, intellectual ability, and it's just this evil force of nature that permeates all of our institutions. And so I was like, man, how do I write about something that's so big but yet so amorphous, so invisible, so it just moves in and out of our institutions at will, just destroying lives. People that worked hard all their lives and tried to do things the right way, studied hard, went to the right schools, wrote books, published law review articles on this continent and many other continents, but still couldn't get positions in the university. And then I finally figured it out several years ago, Millie, that it's based on ideological discrimination.
Do you feel like you are more likely to be discriminated against in a university setting because of your ideological or religious conservative beliefs? Or do you think you're more likely to be discriminated against based on your skin color?
Wow, that's a very good question. I think it all, in a one kind of evil way, morphs together, where you can't determine, am I being discriminated based on my skin color, or am I being discriminated based on my conservative or Christian ideological beliefs? And I addressed that question, and I appreciate you asking it. Yes. And in the article, my manifesto, I call it, I think I coined this term, the Clarence Thomas effect. Clarence Thomas has been a 30-year intellectual mentor of mine. I've never met him. My son recently met him, and another great conservative icon, Professor Dr. Walter Williams, a professor of economics at George Mason, where my son went there his freshman year. And so I'm glad that my son at least got a chance to meet him in person. But I've been ideologically aligned with Clarence Thomas for 30 years now, going back to my years at Harvard University in the late 1980s. Incidentally, I was at Harvard Law School for a year at the same time that President Obama was there, although I have no independent recollection of him. But anyway, my point being, Millie, I think what I call the Clarence Thomas effect, or the fact that Clarence Thomas was able to get on the Supreme Court, the left made a blood oath amongst themselves and amongst all the institutions that they control, which is virtually everything, to not let Clarence Thomas arise again. And you're seeing with the trouble that President Trump is having and getting his picks through, and just every step of the way, it's a living hell for this man, but yet he marches on. That's part of the Clarence Thomas effect. That's the empire striking back. That's the progressive left, the Marxist, progressive, communist left, having a collective fit to literally kill in the cradle anybody brave enough to be a Clarence Thomas or follow after a Clarence Thomas, and they'll do everything and anything they can to kill their career, even in the cradle.
That's right. And you know, the left likes to say that they want diversity, but at the same time, all the studies out there show that in the universities, the left does not want diversity because the majority of professors there are liberals or other. I mean, very few identify as conservatives, which raises the question, are they being discriminated? And other studies out there have shown that there is a lot of discrimination based on your ideology, your political views. So that's one of the things that's pretty amazing about your manifesto. What are some of the things that you personally experienced at these universities from people?
Well, in the beginning of the manifesto, Millie, I was just trying to find it. The first part has an abstract, which is very important. This is a short paragraph, and I urge the readers to read that first because that just summarizes my story and it puts it in context. Because the article is admittedly, it's a deep scholarly treatise, and it covers a lot of history, a lot of different movements, both here in America and Europe and throughout the world. But I open up on the second page. It's titled Breaking the Slave Chains of Affirmative Action. And I reprinted a letter, one of literally hundreds of letters that I've written to all of the law schools. At 3 different occasions, I wrote every law school in America seeking a job, a university job, and almost to the man, the ones that chose to respond to me, Millie, would say, Professor Washington, undoubtedly your credentials are impeccable, the schools you went to, your writings are magnificent, but we're sorry we don't have a position. And this is the key part that would fit your credentials. So that was a little subtle, to me, acknowledgement that I had the credentials, but because of ideological racism, ideological discrimination, intellectual discrimination, or another way to put it, liberal hegemony inside of the academy, I would not be allowed. And I said, that's terrible. But I don't have a big media company. I'm just one man. All I had was my writing. So I just kept writing over the decades, for over 3 decades now, Millie. Wow. I've been writing, and I've been just trying to, in silence, tell my story. And I just want to say this once again. I really appreciate you for giving me this opportunity. I just reached out to you earlier this week, and already yes. I'm speaking to you. I've written literally, you think about all the big names. I won't name any here, but any big name, conservative, liberal, any media outlet, I would just go to Drudge Report and just go from A to Z, writing, pleading, trying to tell people my story. Nothing but silence, what I call the silence of the lambs. But I'm so grateful that you and
well, thank you very much.
Alex Jones.
Yes, thank you. We're the people's media, so we're going to put it out there if it's something that's really going on. And can you just tell the viewers the name of your manifesto and your websites and other information that you want to get out there to them?
Sure. Originally it was just called Manifesto, and I hope this is not going to get you in trouble with the FCC. That the title that I use, and this was based on a conversation from a former colleague of mine at Savannah State University named Lenny McCoy. He said, Ellis, you need to do something to give a little bit more of an edge to your writing to bring more attention to it. So I said, instead of calling it Manifesto, I'm going to call it Nigger Manifesto. And the full title is Nigger Manifesto, Institutional, Intellectual, and Ideological Racism inside the academy. And if anybody wants to find it, they could just Google Ellis Washington Manifesto or Nigger Manifesto, or you can go to my history blog at elliswashingtonreport.com, where I have thousands of my writings covering, like I said, a 30-plus year period.
Wow, well, thank you so much, Ellis. It has been amazing talking to you on here, and I really do suggest for viewers to go and read his manifesto. It's very enlightening because the studies are out there. You know, there's a lot of discrimination going on at universities regarding your political affiliation. We've seen it with how Milo Yiannopoulos can't even throw a speaking event there. So thank you so much, Ellis, and this is Millie Weaver with the Infowars Nightly News.
Everyone knows that Infowars funds our operation by selling high-quality products that we use and that everybody needs at very competitive, affordable prices. And so I get questions all the time over the years. Why don't you sell body armor at InfoWarsStore.com? Or why don't you have sponsors that sell body armor? And it's simple. I will only promote and I will only sell the very, very best out there. And there's a nexus point. There's quality versus price, and those 2 points have to come together. National Defense Labs and its civilian subsidiary, Citizen Armor, has given Infowars the exclusive on distributing to the American people the true next generation in body armor. People are always saying, it's the 21st century, where are the silver jetpacks, and where's Buck Rogers and the sky cars? Well, the globalists have basically suppressed a lot of those developments. They admit they want a post-industrial world. They call any technology that gets around their systems of control disruptive. Well, believe me, this is disruptive to tyrants worldwide.
Basically, what we're bringing to the Infowars team is a new line of dynamic, lightweight body armor. It's nanotube technology. It's created here in Texas. It is lighter, more flexible, easier to wear, more comfortable, and stronger than anything else on the market. We've went out and did some testing. We originally found their claims, saw what they said. We were all kind of hesitant to believe that something so light, so flexible, could be so strong. So what we did is we went out, we used different pistols, different calibers to test different pieces of the body armor to ensure that it was up to the high standards that we expect to carry here at the Infowars store.
Born in Texas, made in America, exclusively available at InfoWarsStore.com right now.
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a 1/4 inch thick. I mean, it's got a 20-year warranty. It's waterproof. You can wear it. It's comfortable. I mean, it's not bulky. I mean, that's the biggest, I think, intrigue for you, Alex.
The biggest thing for us is, unfortunately, we live in a society now where we need to be able to defend ourselves and our families at any time. And this is something that is so thin and so lightweight.
You said when you talk to people that have been using this, actually testing it for years, and people that currently test it for us, they didn't just say outstanding. I mean, what did they really say about this?
No, this is through the roof. They want to know, how do they get it? Where do they find it? A lot of my law enforcement official buddies want to know the same thing because they're wearing these big, heavy, bulky vests that don't work as well. So they're looking for something you can wear all day, 12 hours a day, in and out of a car.
And 90, I mean, you can look up the numbers, 90+% of fatalities with guns when they're used in victim of crime, I think it's like 94, is pistols or shotguns. This stops that unless it's a slug. I mean, that's amazing. So they can wear this, and only somebody with a rifle around is going to get through it. And soon, and then we'll have it, if it's available to civilians, we're not sure, we're going to have the stuff that's, I mean, unstoppable. This deal is so insane, is so good, it makes my head spin. But I guess the first people to sell cars kind of had to give them away. People didn't believe it. Hell, I don't want that thing. I feed my horse hay. The backpack body armor is only $200. And we shot everything you can imagine at it. Again, fund the InfoWar. Get the game-changing nanotech tubes from Buck Rogers. It's a win-win. $200. Go check out all their different products at InfoWarsStore.com. It's amazing.
Quentin Carter here, Infowars Nightly News, here with Craig Sawman Sawyer. Got some hot topics we'd like to discuss. Craig, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Thanks for having me on, Q.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about some of the breaking news and things that we've discussed earlier today. Let's do it on air.
Yeah, man. Well, one of the first things is the pedophilia ring that are being rolled up and busted right now. It seems like our DOJ is in rapid fire yanking these pedophiles up, and I'm hearing hundreds and some reports even reporting thousands of pedophiles across the country being rolled up already. And I'm so thankful for not only for the victims, but for just the sanity and the soul of the nation to see that that's being cleaned up. I celebrate that now.
Absolutely. I'm super thankful that the DOJ is doing their part to go out and start wrangling these people up. Recently read an article, 750 arrested, 28 plus children saved from, this type of sick imprisonment.
Yeah. Well, I hope not only that the victims can recover, but that there will be far fewer in the future. And man, I really celebrate. I hope the rest of our country will join us in celebrating that development. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And I hope that as the DOJ rounds these guys up and snatches them up and gives them just punishment for what they're doing, I hope that it's a lesson and an idea for other people that are out doing this, that it's not okay, that your turn is coming, that if you continue to do what it is that you're doing, it's just a matter of time before your door gets knocked on, whether it's daytime or nighttime.
Kicked in.
Someone's coming to get you. Like, you can be sure of it.
Yeah, I've got friends. In fact, we've got a network that we've built. I won't say the location, but is the epicenter of human trafficking in the continental United States to break that up. And what we want to do is make a television series about it. Not to just entertain people, but to make the public aware so that we can create a non-permissive environment for these human traffickers, for these pedophiles, and break up the ring and make it very difficult for them to do what they do. In many cases, they're even keeping girls in little dog kennels. And they're doing it right under people's noses, sometimes in nice neighborhoods, and the neighbors don't even know why 20 or 30 cars there in a 24-hour period means something. And so what we want to do is show the public, this is what's going on, and in a lot of cases right under your nose, see something, say something, right. And we want to heat this issue up and cause it to be very difficult and allow a lot of these girls to have a better life, and young boys too. And just break this up. This is evil, and this should not be happening.
It's not just poor neighborhoods; it's rich neighborhoods. It crosses all lines ethnically. It's white, it's black, it's everyone does it. It's financials. Rich people, poor people.
Yeah. Well, so much of it is the elites, too, because it gets suppressed.
Right.
There are people that have done good work and expose a lot of this, and it doesn't get seen by the public because the officials are suppressing the information because they're in on it, sadly enough.
People would be less likely to partake in this type stuff if they saw it on the news on a regular basis, if they saw that the bad guys were being caught, that people were being prosecuted, sent to prison, getting just punishment.
Yeah.
And you had said that at the end of each show, you don't want it to just be a tearjerker where someone feels completely miserable. At the end of every show, we want to show the young ladies and the young men living prosperous lives, getting the therapy that they need to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the story, and we want to share that with people as the rescues and the rehabilitation. There's equine therapy that these young people are responding to very, very powerfully and positively. Horses, man, it just seems like a magic combination, the way that humans interact with horses, and just watch these precious little souls recover and have that part of the story shared at the end of each episode.
Right, because you might reach out to someone who has been hurt, who has been abused, who has been in one of these situations that thinks there's no hope, that they're not recoverable. And that's kind of the idea, is to be able to show that the people that have been through this, they're still helpable, they're still fixable. Just because you've had a hard time doesn't necessarily mean that that's your life. You know, there are steps forward. There are people that recover from this. There's a whole network of individuals out there that will help you get better.
Yeah, man, a lot of good people out there that want to help and are already doing it. So why not share that with the public and let them celebrate the positive aspect of it, and then the healing that can come once this evil is broken and put down. You know, we've got the International Coalition Against Poaching, and we've got a fantastic team of Tier 1 operators and intelligence community veterans who really can wire any city out and find out who the bad guys are and have a huge impact. So we want to transfer that also into the human trafficking and have a tremendous impact there. And
since you brought up the intelligence community, let us, you know, kind of say that I think a lot of times a lot of people get lumped into the term CIA, you know, and it has a super negative connotation right now. I want to take this time while I'm on here to say that, you know, I have friends and family in the intelligence community. And when I say family, I mean, you know, guys that I have served next to and spent time with that I would kill or die for in an instant. They're not bad people at all. They are doing God's work. Without them, there is, you know, no shortage of atrocities that would happen to the United States or the United States people if these guys weren't out there doing what they do, you know. So I just want to clarify that not everybody's lumped into that same little group.
You know, Q, I hear people out there speaking about the intelligence community, the CIA, so forth, and they have this really negative image in their mind of perhaps part of our intelligence community that has been abused or used for nefarious reasons. And you and I both know a lot of people that are doing God's work there that are patriots to the core, and they're risking life and limb to secure us. Heroes, literally heroes. Absolutely. Risking life and limb.
Keeping us safe in the United States of America.
And so to the people that have heard so much of the negativity, I would say this. What I would like to hear happen is President Trump, because he is our elected official to carry out our will of the people, he can direct his own or appoint his own directors to each branch of the intelligence community and set his commander's intent with, hey, Director, here is my intent. Here is our new charter. It is what you're supposed to have been doing all along, to act in the good faith of the American people. And I will hold you accountable, and you are to clean up whatever might be wrong with your agency and get back on track.
That's right.
And so that the American public can regain confidence in so many good people that are working in our IC for us.
Basically, Trump needs to assign responsibility and then hold people accountable.
100%.
That's it. I think the American people have lost a faith that needs to be restored. Understand there are good people out there doing good work. They're in the shadows. It's kind of the whole silent professional. You know, the work doesn't stop because no one's talking about it.
Correct.
We're still out there doing stuff every single day.
Yeah, it's quiet because it needs to be. That's what's more effective.
Okay, and that's, you know, part of that is we don't want to be quiet anymore. We want to talk about this veteran initiative. It's a call to action, right? So part of me calling you here is you know, let's reach out, let's talk, let's be vocal, let's stand up for what's right. Let's, you know, support the guys that are in charge. You know, there's an old saying, you know, lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Yeah, man.
Right now, it's kind of time to follow. Yeah. So we're following the boss, but we want to lead people in the right direction. And that's what's big for me right now. That's what you know, my vision behind this and having you guys come and talk and do whatever, that's exactly what I want to do. I want people like you and I to lead people that are on the sidelines and maybe not interacting as much. I want those people to come out and feel safe and be proud of who they are. You know, put your right hand over your heart. You know, say the Pledge of Allegiance, you know, listen to Star Spangled Banner, be proud of having an American flag in front of your home again.
Yes, together we are what we can't be alone, a free country.
That's it.
And what's wrong with that? So I think we need to get happy about it and celebrate what we've got and beat away those that would tear it down.
Totally agree.
Yeah, man.
You know, Craig, I want to thank you very much for coming out, brother. I love you. You know that.
Thank you so much. This has been a fantastic experience.
Please do. For more reports just like this, tune in to Infowars.com.
Alex Jones here with a very important news update to anybody out there that wants to be prepared. But it goes beyond being prepared. Our bodies absolutely must have the good halogen iodine or we will die. And you look at all of the thyroid problems and all the people that don't have energy and that have all sorts of hormone problems. And from my research, and a lot of just mainline research, it leads back to iodine over and over and over again. It's as important as vitamin C. If you don't get iodine, you die. But most people are just deficient, so they're low energy, they're sick. You got to have iodine in your body so that your body can produce the hormones you need. It is the base to so many things. And since I got into iodine 4 years ago, we've helped change the entire paradigm by developing and bringing to the public deep earth crystals from 7,000 to 12,000 feet of the purest iodine available. Other iodine comes from the ocean or from other byproducts of chemical facilities and is tainted. It's bound. It's not absorbable. I tried it. And I had incredible effects even with dirty iodine because the body needs it. When you don't have iodine, it absorbs the chlorine, the fluoride, and all these other bad halogens. Do yourself and your family a favor and check out the importance of iodine for yourself. I think you're going to be blown away. And whatever you do, support the broadcast and get a bottle of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2. Also consult your physician because if you've been deficient in it or have other issues, it can have some dramatic effects. As for me and most folks I talk to, it's been a game changer in the positive column, but still consult your physician because iodine is no joke. It's a key building block of the body. And if you haven't had it for a long time and suddenly have it, some folks say they've experienced things like a detoxing effect and things like that. You've got to have vitamin C. You've got to have iodine to live. You've got to have water to live. Iodine is key. You must have it, but consult your physician first before you get powerful Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2 at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll free. We can answer your questions. 888-253-3139.
Well, we are watching an unprecedented power grab from the judicial branch of government. Judges all across the country are inventing reasons to obstruct Donald Trump and his agenda. Now, Donald Trump in his speech in Nashville Wednesday night called this unprecedented judicial overreach. Millie Weaver joins me now. Now, we were watching this Nashville rally take place, and he was just kind of explaining how he went kind of jumping through hoops, tailoring it to the Ninth Circuit's dictates, watered it down.
Exactly. That's exactly what he did. You know, they originally shot down his first attempt at an executive order that was much more detailed. It was more lengthy. And the judges that shot it down, he actually had his lawyers use their reasons for shutting it down to then rewrite this new one that was more watered down and simpler so that they could get it passed. And then this Hawaii judge goes and shoots it down for really not very good reasons at all. I guess he decided that it would make Muslim children sad. You know, he did it based off of emotional reasons. You can see him really injecting
his ideology in there and making it really more about religion, less about the fact that this is to protect the American people, which President Trump has tried to get that point across many times. So this was a watered down version, and it's a version of that was blocked by another judge, should have never been blocked because the power, the law, the Constitution gives the president the power to suspend immigration for, whenever he or she, as he kind of jokingly said, not Hillary, deems. So it's very interesting because now we have another judge in Wisconsin saying that a Syrian who recently was given asylum and who's not even a citizen has the right to ask a fellow judge for visas to fly his relatives in the United States. This is regardless of any opposition from border police, intelligence, immigration. And then 3 California judges and a judge in Washington state say the president's sole right and solemn duty to protect and guard the borders ends when the state suffers financial harm because the universities aren't able to bring in these foreign exchange students. So they're basically saying we don't care about what the president, his executive orders. We need to be able to continue bringing in all of these students from these other countries because of course, they make massive amounts of money in these tuition fees. They don't want people that are local to the state. They want all of these foreign exchange students. Very interesting.
Wow. I wonder if some of those students are getting grants to come here as well, and who's paying for that. But yeah, I mean, there's some pretty interesting stuff regarding the travel ban. I mean, we've seen how Obama just met with this judge right before this judge made this decision.
Right, exactly. And it was a surprise visit, kind of unannounced, as reported by the newspaper there in Hawaii, but 48 hours before the judge blocked Trump's travel ban. And you know, you might say, well, that's just a coincidence, but I mean, this judge, U.S. District Court Judge Derek Watson, who presides there in Honolulu and slapped down the executive order, he was actually appointed to that position in November 2012 by then President Obama. And they actually graduated from Harvard Law School the same exact year. So these guys go way back. And I know you were kind of telling me a lot of people on Reddit actually said they were kind of mapping out the location where they were eating dinner, so close to each other.
Exactly. So when Obama took his trip here, to Hawaii, he was basically hanging out less than 5 minutes from this judge's house and was, he was basically in the exact proximity to be hanging out with this guy. And then Obama leaves, and less than 48 hours later, this judge makes this decision to block President Trump's executive order on the travel ban.
Right. And then, of course, the Hawaiian judge, he said that he did it citing some of Trump's comments that he made regarding Muslims on the campaign trail as part of his reason, as you kind of alluded to. But come on, it's like the timing there is just very peculiar. So Pop Sugar reported that Obama was out playing golf, of course, but he still was able to make time to take care of business. He met with tech leaders there, and they say his return to politics might be sooner than we think. Let's not forget, we had Eric Holder last month saying that Obama was close to returning to politics, saying it's coming, he's ready to roll. And we've reported that
that's right.
Speculation that Obama's created a nerve center in Washington, D.C.
That's right. They're kind of speculating that Obama's going to make a comeback. And meanwhile, Obama set up shop right near the White House in this house where he has his former advisors and everybody all like meeting there in secret. And I mean, people are really wondering, why is he doing this? Why is he going out of his way to undermine a president right after he leaves? Never in the history of presidents in the United States
have we seen that. Most of them want to get the heck out of there.
Yeah, we've never seen one like actively trying to undermine the president that then replaces them.
And it's kind of a thing that you sort of expect that the incoming president is going to dismantle a lot of the policies that you put in place. But he's so attached to this legacy so much, though, that he was out stumping for Hillary Clinton. His wife was as well, even though she said the exact opposite when the two of them were opponents in the presidential race, really kind of tearing down Hillary Clinton at the time. So it's really interesting. A lot of people saying that he's setting up a type of insurgency to sabotage Donald Trump's presidency because he needs to protect his legacy.
Yes.
And I also thought it was a little interesting today. There was a rogue McDonald's tweet, and the tweet was really attacking Donald Trump. It said basically that you're a disgusting president. You have tiny hands. We miss Barack Obama. Now, McDonald's, of course, immediately deletes the tweet, and they said, we were hacked. But, okay, so the hacker, they do this, and they only tweet out the one tweet, and then McDonald's immediately gets its account back? I don't think so. So here was what's really interesting is that the former Obama press secretary, Robert Gibbs, is actually the global chief of communications. He's the global chief communications officer at McDonald's.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are saying there's no way you were hacked. There's a little bit more to it.
Yeah, some people are speculating that maybe Gibbs played a role in this rogue tweet that happened. And, I do find it a little bit fitting that, this Robert Gibbs, who is Obama's press secretary, in charge of making Obama look so great, now goes on to making McDonald's and their fake chicken nuggets look great. So it's pretty fitting. It's a great job. It's a great job fit right there.
He was able to sell President Obama to the American people twice. So you make a very excellent point there. So yes, Robert Gibbs, he held this several senior advisory roles in the White House, served as President Barack Obama's press secretary during his first term, and then as the senior campaign advisor during his re-election campaign. So there you go. He's obviously very close to Barack Obama. Maybe he does miss Barack Obama, but this is also the man who lied to the American people about the drone program. Let's go ahead and just play this clip because I want you to hear him with his own words, because we can just see now what a huge liar this guy was.
When I went through the process of becoming press secretary, one of the first things they told me was, you're not even to acknowledge the drone program. You're not even to discuss that it exists. But here's what's inherently crazy about that proposition. You're being asked a question based on reporting of a program that exists. Right. So you're the official government spokesperson acting as if the entire program, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
All right, so of course, you know, Gibbs might have had nothing to do with this tweet calling Trump a disgusting excuse for a president, but a lot of people are kind of saying, well, it's very coincidental there, and he obviously has no problem lying about the things that he's up to, because numerous Obama insiders are still really in these positions of power, and they have continually tried to undermine Trump.
That's right. You know, we've seen that a lot of the presidents, they leave and they pack up, they go home, and then they don't criticize the next president. And we've seen Obama just constantly criticizing Trump. So are we seeing his friends in positions of powers pulling strings to create criticisms and an air of dissent against President Trump, when meanwhile we saw Hillary Clinton hypocritically talking bad on Trump, saying that he was not following the democratic process by saying he might not, you know, back down or might not question the election results. So it might be the same situation here we're seeing.
Right, and just justifying all of the unrest and all of the resistance going on across the country. She put out the video, you know, I stand with you. I'm going to be right there resisting with you on the front lines. Tim McCain's son got arrested resisting as well. So, yeah, we really are seeing a lot of people from the former administration declaring Trump to be mentally unfit or whatever. And I think you're right about that, just trying to kind of further undermine his presidency. Well, thank you so much, Millie. And thank you guys so much for tuning into our show this evening. We will see you here again tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central.